The laughter around the table faded the moment I checked my phone. My heart sank. Every single charge from tonight's Christmas gifts was on my card. I looked up at my family, smiling, pretending nothing was wrong. Then Dad raised his glass and said, "We voted. You're the one with money, Nico. It's only fair you pay for the family." That was the moment I realized I wasn't family anymore. I was their wallet. Nico had always been the good daughter, the one everyone could count on. From the time she got her first job, she took care of everyone without complaining. Her parents were proud of her success in tech, and her siblings, Zeba and Lonnie, loved how easily she said yes to everything. When bills came, Nico paid. When someone needed help, Nico showed up. She was the one who made things happen quietly, never asking for anything in return. Her father often said she was the backbone of the family, and for years, that made her smile. She bought the house they lived in, believing it would bring them closer. She paid Zeba's college fees when her father said he couldn't afford it. She even helped Lonnie when he wanted a big wedding, covering most of the expenses because she wanted him to be happy. Every time she gave, she felt proud. She thought this was what love looked like, helping the people you care about. But slowly, that love started to feel one-sided. Her siblings never said thank you anymore. It was like they expected her help. Her mother had stopped asking if she was okay, assuming she was always fine because she earned well. Nico told herself it was okay, that maybe this was her role in the family. The helper, the strong one, the one who never says no. Then came Christmas. The house was full of laughter and shiny decorations. Zeba showed off the expensive perfume she got, Lonnie unwrapped a new smartwatch, and her parents smiled as they exchanged gifts. Nico sat quietly, her smile fixed, watching the people she loved the most enjoy a celebration she had barely been part of. She hadn't even been asked what she wanted for Christmas. In fact, she hadn't chosen or bought any of those gifts. Yet somehow, she felt deeply connected to them, though she didn't yet know why. As the wrapping paper covered the floor and everyone laughed, a strange emptiness grew inside her. It should have been a moment of joy, but it wasn't. It felt like she was watching a movie of a family that used to be hers. The warmth she once felt was gone, replaced by a quiet ache she couldn't explain. That night, when her father raised his glass to family unity, Nico forced a smile. But deep down, she knew something had changed. This didn't feel like love anymore. It felt like duty, and she was the one paying the price for everyone's happiness. After dinner, the room was full of laughter. Everyone was sitting near the fireplace, sipping hot chocolate, and talking about how wonderful the evening had been. Nico smiled quietly, feeling tired but content that her family was happy. She reached for her phone to check some notifications, and that's when her smile slowly faded. Her banking app showed a long list of charges, all from tonight. Every single gift, the catering service, the event planner, even the Christmas decorations, everything had been paid for with her card. For a few seconds, she just stared at the screen, thinking it must be a mistake. But as she scrolled down, her heart sank deeper. The total amount was huge, more than what she had planned for the whole month. Confused and a little shaky, she got up and quietly walked to her father. "Dad," she whispered, trying to stay calm, "why is everything from tonight charged to my card?" Her father looked at her like it was nothing. "We all agreed," he said, his tone casual. "You earn the most. This is your contribution." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "You agreed?" she asked softly. "Without asking me?" Her mother didn't meet her gaze. She just looked down and said, "We didn't want to both bother you, dear. You've always taken care of things anyway." For a moment, Nico couldn't find words. Everyone around her was still laughing, enjoying the gifts, unaware that their happiness had come from her hard-earned money. Again, she felt invisible. It wasn't about the money itself. It was the way they had decided it for her. As if her effort didn't matter. As if her hard work was theirs to use. She walked back to her seat, her body numb. The warmth of the room suddenly felt cold. Her brother Lonnie was showing off his new watch, and her sister Zeba was taking selfies with her gifts. They looked so happy, so free, and none of them even noticed the hurt on her face. As she sat there, staring into the flickering light of the fireplace, a heavy silence filled her heart. She realized she had been giving and giving, hoping it meant love, but now it felt like a trap. Her generosity had turned into an expectation, something she owed them, not something she offered. That night, while her family laughed together, Nico sat quietly in the corner, holding her phone in her hands. The numbers on the screen didn't just show money spent, they showed years of being taken for granted. And for the first time, she wondered if maybe love shouldn't feel this heavy. As Nico sat quietly in her room that night, memories started to pour in like a storm she couldn't stop. Every kind thing she had done for her family replayed in her mind, not as proud moments, but as painful reminders of how much she had given without being appreciated. She remembered the time Ziba needed money to pay off a debt from shopping too much. Nico had sent her the money instantly, even though it meant skipping her own rent for the month. Ziba had said thank you once, and then moved on like it was nothing. Then came Lonnie's wedding. He wanted a big, beautiful ceremony, something that would impress his friends. Their father told her, "You know he can't afford all that. Just help your brother. You're his big sister." Nico had agreed and paid most of the expenses, thinking it would make the family proud. But on the wedding day, no one even mentioned her help. Her father stood proudly and thanked everyone except her. She just smiled, pretending it didn't hurt. She thought about all the holidays she had funded alone. Christmas, birthdays, anniversaries. She would buy gifts, plan everything, cook, decorate, and make sure everyone felt special. But when it came to her own birthday, it was always something small, something last minute. They would tell her, "You're too busy to celebrate anyway." And she would nod, hiding her disappointment. There was also that one trip she had always dreamed of, a solo vacation to the Maldives. She had been saving for months, ready to finally do something for herself. But just a week before the trip, her father called her with a familiar tone. "Family first, Nico. You'll have plenty of time for yourself later," he said. He needed help paying for home repairs and she couldn't say no. She canceled her trip and sent the money, believing that later would come someday. But it never did. Every time she tried to say no, someone made her feel guilty. Her mother would say, "How can you be so selfish after all we've done for you?" Ziba would call her heartless. Lonnie would remind her how much she owed the family for raising her. And each time, she gave in, swallowing her own needs, believing that love meant sacrifice. But sitting there now, staring at her phone and the unpaid bills that weren't even hers, Nico finally saw the truth. She wasn't the favorite child or the dependable one. She was the safety net, the one they used when they fell, the one who always caught them, even when no one ever caught her. The next morning, sunlight filled the house, and everyone was still sleeping after the big night. Nico sat at the edge of her bed, her phone in her hand, her heart still heavy from what had happened. She thought maybe someone would text her to say thank you, or even just ask how she was feeling. But when her phone buzzed, it wasn't what she expected. It was a message from her brother, Lonnie. He wrote, "You should probably pay the decorator too. He's asking about the balance." That was it. No good morning. No thank you. Not even a question. Just another command, another bill to handle. Nico read the message again and again, feeling her chest tighten. The decorator? The same one who had already charged part of the payment on her card without her knowing? She sat there, realizing this wasn't just carelessness, it was entitlement. They all assumed she would fix it. They didn't even think of asking. For a long time, Nico stared at her phone, waiting to feel the usual pain or guilt that used to push her to give in. But this time there was nothing. Just emptiness. And a strange calm. She suddenly saw everything clearly. Her family didn't see her as a person anymore. To them, she wasn't their daughter, sister, or friend. She was a walking card, a never-ending source of money. She thought about all those long nights she worked, missing sleep, skipping meals, pushing herself to meet deadlines just to make a good life for everyone. She remembered sitting alone in her apartment, surrounded by work files, thinking she was doing all this for love. But now it hit her. Love wasn't what she was getting back. What she got was dependence, not appreciation. Nico put her phone down and took a deep breath. She didn't cry this time. She had cried too many times before, hoping things would change. Instead, she felt something shift inside her. A quiet strength she hadn't felt in years. For once, she didn't want to explain, argue, or defend herself. She didn't even want an apology. She just wanted peace. As she looked around her room filled with unopened gifts and unpaid emotional debts, she knew what she had to do. It was time to stop being their provider. Time to stop being their solution. Nico decided. Right there and then, she would start planning her exit, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. This time, she would finally choose herself. In the weeks that followed, Nico became quieter than ever. Her phone rang constantly, messages from her siblings, calls from her parents, but she didn't answer any of them. She had spent her whole life responding immediately whenever they needed her. But now, she let the phone buzz until it stopped. The silence felt strange at first, but slowly, it started to feel peaceful. For the first time in years, she was in control of her own time. She sat at her desk one night, going through her bank accounts. There were so many transactions she hadn't even noticed before. Small amounts here and there, family expenses she didn't remember agreeing to. It made her realize how much of her life had been quietly taken from her, not just in money but in peace of mind. She transferred all her savings into a private account, one no one else could access. Then she called the bank to cancel every shared card that had her name on it. Each click of confirmation felt like she was reclaiming a piece of herself. Next, she changed her phone number. No explanations, no warnings. She didn't owe anyone that anymore. When the new number was activated, she felt an unexpected sense of freedom. No more guilt messages. No more urgent requests disguised as family emergencies. It was just her, and the quiet. A few days later, her parents showed up at her office. Her father walked in first, his face tight with frustration. Her mother followed, her eyes already filled with tears. They didn't even sit down before her father started. "What's going on with you, Nico? Your mother's been worried sick. You've stopped talking to everyone." Nico looked up calmly from her desk. Her voice was steady, not angry, not emotional. "I'm just taking care of myself now," she said. "Something I should have done a long time ago." Her father frowned. "Taking care of yourself doesn't mean abandoning your family. We made sacrifices for you too." She took a deep breath. "No, Vath, you've mistaken my kindness for debt. I'm done paying for love." For a long moment, no one said anything. Her mother covered her face, crying softly. Her father's jaw tightened as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. But Nico didn't flinch. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't apologize. She didn't explain further. She had finally said the words she had held inside her for years. After they left, she closed her office door and leaned back in her chair. A strange mix of sadness and relief washed over her. She had always been dependable, the one everyone leaned on. But she finally saw the truth. Being dependable had only made her disposable. And for once, she wasn't afraid to disappear from their expectations. She was finally choosing peace over obligation. Days turned into weeks, and soon Nico's silence began to echo louder than words. Her phone started filling with messages, long angry ones, emotional ones, and some that sounded like guilt traps. Zeba was the first to break the quiet. "So that's it," she texted. "You just walk away from your family? After everything we've done for you?" The message made Nico's chest tighten, but she didn't reply. She had replied all her life, now she just watched. Then came Lonnie. His tone was harsher. "You're selfish, Nico. You think money makes you better than us? You wouldn't even have that job if it wasn't for Dad guiding you." His words stung, not because they were true, but because they were cruel. He had no idea how many nights she had stayed up working, how many opportunities she had lost while helping him. Still, Nico didn't reply. She put her phone down and walked away, trying to protect her peace. But the message that hurt most came from her father. It was a voice note. His deep voice filled the room, heavy with anger. "You've shamed this family," he said. "We made you who you are, and this is how you repay us, by turning your back on us." Nico sat still, tears welling in her eyes. It was strange. Even after all they'd done, part of her still wished he'd say something different. Maybe just once. She wanted him to admit he was proud of her. But instead he used guilt again, the one thing that always worked before. Only this time it didn't. She wiped her face and whispered to herself, "No, Dad. You didn't make me. I made myself." She remembered every job she fought to get, every night she worked overtime, every time she said no to herself just to say yes to them. Her success wasn't handed to her. She built it brick by brick, while they stood watching, expecting to benefit from it. And yet, when she shared what she had, it was never enough. When she stopped, they called it betrayal. Their love had come with conditions. And once she stopped meeting them, their affection disappeared. That realization broke something inside her. Not anger, not hate, but a deep sadness. She realized she had been feeding their love with her sacrifices. The moment she stopped giving, the love stopped too. And that hurt more than any bill, any message, or any insult. It hurt because she finally saw the truth. She was never truly loved for who she was, only for what she could give. And now that she had nothing left to offer, they no longer saw her as family. Weeks passed, and Nico continued to keep her distance from everyone. She focused on work, went home to her quiet apartment, and tried not to think about the angry messages that had once filled her phone. Some days she felt free, other days lonely. But one afternoon, she received a simple message from someone she didn't expect, her Aunt Amati. Aunt Amati was her mother's older sister, a calm and quiet woman the family rarely talked about. She never joined family gatherings for long, and people often described her as too proud or too distant. But Nico had always liked her. Her message was short and gentle. Come over for tea when you can. No pressure. Something in those words felt safe, so Nico went. When she arrived, Amati welcomed her with a warm smile. There was no judgment, no questions about the family fight, just a peaceful presence. They sat in the small garden behind her house, sipping tea as the wind rustled through the trees. After a while, Amati looked at her and said softly, I heard what happened. You stopped helping them, didn't you? Nico nodded slowly, not sure how to explain everything. They think I'm heartless now, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Amati smiled gently. That's what they always say when the giver finally stops giving. Nico looked up, surprised. Amati leaned forward and continued. I was once the family wallet too. They called me successful, generous, kind, until I said no. Then suddenly I became selfish. That's when I learned something important. Giving without boundaries isn't kindness, it's self-erasure. Those words hit Nico deeply. She sat quietly, letting them sink in. It was like Amati had spoken the truth she had been trying to find inside herself. For years, Nico thought love meant giving everything she had. But now she saw it clearly. Love without respect destroys you slowly. Amati then helped her channel her heart into something new. If you still want to give, do it where it counts, she said. Together, they set up a small trust fund for underprivileged girls who wanted to study technology. It wasn't huge, but it was something that mattered. Every contribution went toward scholarships, training, and mentorship. When Nico saw the first group of girls holding their new laptops with wide smiles, something shifted inside her. For the first time, her money wasn't used to buy approval or keep peace. It was creating real change. As she left Amati's house that evening, Nico felt lighter. She finally understood what it meant to give with purpose, not pressure. Her aunt hadn't just given her advice, she had given her a new beginning. Months later, life began to turn against those who had once looked down on Nico's silence. Ziba lost her job unexpectedly after her company downsized. She sent Nico a long message, filled with crying emojis and apologies, begging her to lend some money, just until things get better. Lonnie's small business also started falling apart. Suppliers backed out, customers disappeared, and debts piled up faster than she could handle. Suddenly, the same people who had called Nico selfish now spoke softly, pretending as if nothing had happened. Her phone buzzed nonstop for days. Messages came in from every direction. Her sisters blaming bad luck, her mother sending emotional voice notes, and her father finally calling after weeks of silence. But his tone was different this time, quieter, humbler. He sighed deeply and said, We were wrong, Nico. We didn't mean to hurt you. We just thought you'd always be there. For a moment, Nico's heart softened. Part of her wanted to go back, to fix everything like she always did, to rescue them from the mess they had created. That old voice inside her whispered, They're still your family. But another, stronger voice reminded her of the sleepless nights, the tears she hid, and the way they made her feel small for being generous. She realized now that love built on convenience isn't love at all. It's dependence disguised as care. So, she took a deep breath and replied calmly, I'll pray for you, Dad. That's all I can afford right now. Her words were gentle but firm, and the silence that followed told her everything she needed to know. There was no anger in her heart, only peace. She wasn't punishing them. She was protecting herself. Weeks passed, and Nico heard through neighbors that things had gotten worse. Ziba had to move back home. Lonnie sold her car to pay off debts. Her parents had begun arguing more than ever, blaming each other for how things turned out. Yet Nico didn't feel joy in their suffering. Just a quiet sadness. She had wished they'd learn before life forced them to. Meanwhile, Nico continued to grow stronger. Her foundation for girls in tech was gaining attention, and young women wrote to her saying how her story inspired them. For the first time, her money wasn't fixing broken habits. It was building new futures. Sometimes, late at night, she'd scroll through old family photos, smiling at the faces that once made her cry. Not out of bitterness, but gratitude. Because losing them taught her something priceless. That peace is more valuable than approval. And love that demands your sacrifice isn't love worth keeping. That Christmas felt completely different for Nico. For the first time in her life, she didn't have to pretend to be happy around people who only valued her for what she gave them. Instead of expensive family dinners or fake smiles at home, she chose to spend the day at the children's shelter she had helped fund through her foundation. The place was filled with soft music, twinkling lights, and the warm smell of food cooking in the small kitchen. Dozens of children ran around excitedly, waiting for Nico to arrive, not because she had money, but because she had shown them kindness before anyone else did. When she entered with bags of wrapped gifts, the children's faces lit up instantly. Nico felt something she hadn't felt in years, pure joy. She handed out presents one by one, crouching down to their level, laughing as they tore the wrapping paper apart with wide eyes and small, eager hands. The air was full of real laughter, not the kind she used to fake during family gatherings, but laughter that came from hearts that expected nothing in return. One little boy ran up and hugged her tightly, showing off a small toy car. Another girl proudly showed her a doll she had always wanted. As Nico watched them play, she realized this. This was the kind of giving that healed, not drained. Her money wasn't being used to feed greed anymore. It was bringing smiles, hope, and warmth to children who had no one else to rely on. Later, as the evening quieted down, a small girl with bright eyes tugged on Nico's sleeve and asked softly, "Why do you give us so much?" Nico smiled and said, "Because everyone deserves to feel cared for." The girl looked at her for a long moment, then whispered, "You give like someone who's been hurt before." Nico froze for a second, surprised by the child's honesty. Then she smiled gently and replied, "Maybe I have. But I learned something. When you give from guilt, you lose yourself. When you give from love, you find peace." As the children sang Christmas songs and shared food, Nico sat quietly, watching the joy around her. There were no arguments, no guilt, no fake thank yous, just pure gratitude. And in that moment, she understood something deeply. Family isn't always about blood. Sometimes, it's about the people who appreciate your heart, not your wallet. That Christmas, Nico didn't feel used or invisible. She felt seen, valued, and free. And for the first time, she realized, this was what love was supposed to feel like. A year later, Nico received a message from her family inviting her to dinner. She didn't hesitate, not because she felt obligated, but because she felt ready. She wanted to go with a heart free from anger, guilt, or expectation. When she arrived, the house looked smaller somehow, quieter. The laughter wasn't loud or forced, and the decorations were simple. Nothing like the grand displays from years past. Her father avoided meeting her eyes, his usual confidence replaced by a quiet tension. Her mother, however, hugged her longer than she ever had before, holding her close as if trying to make up for lost time. Nico smiled softly, feeling the difference in the atmosphere. There were no demands, no hidden expectations. This dinner was not about control, it was just about being together. As they sat down to eat, the conversation flowed gently. They talked about work, small successes, and everyday life. There were no reminders of the past debts, no mentions of who had paid for what. It felt normal, honest, and safe. Nico realized how much weight she had been carrying all those years. The pressure, the obligation, the unspoken rules. All of it had lifted. When the meal ended, the waiter brought the bill. Nico expected the usual tension, the silent calculation of who would pay. But this time, everyone calmly placed their share on the table without a word. No one looked at her to cover the extra. No one waited for her approval. She glanced around at the family she had once served like a bank, and her heart felt light. She smiled softly, a quiet, contented smile. Maybe this time we finally ate as equals, she whispered to herself. It wasn't about money or control anymore. It was about respect, understanding, and the simple act of sharing space and time without expectation. Driving home later, Nico felt a calm she hadn't known in years. The streets were quiet, the night still and cool. She pressed her hands against the steering wheel and whispered, almost as if letting a secret out, I didn't lose a family. I found myself. For the first time in a long while, she felt whole. She had learned that love shouldn't be measured in gifts or money, and respect should never be conditional. That night, Nico didn't just return from a dinner. She returned to her own life, her own peace, and her own worth. She had given, she had learned, and she had grown. And now she was free,